Hello and welcome to First Post Game Plan. I know we've come into a new year and maybe this new year finally brought some sort of resolution to a match that's been going on for a long time. BCCI versus Lodha panel. The Supreme Court has thrown a googly, so to say.
Zenia, it's dropped a bombshell. The President and the Secretary of the BCCI have been shown the door.
Absolutely. Ajay Shirke and Anurag Thakur have both been asked to, both have been dismissed from the BCCI, and that while a lot of people are debating on the decision, it definitely is unprecedented.
It is unprecedented, and the consequences of it, we'll have to kind of wait and see how it pans out. But clearly, this is something that I don't, within the BCCI, a lot of people may not have expected. Perhaps towards the end, with the Supreme Court unrelenting, there must have been some tremors. I don't think they would have had a very good New Year's party or whatever else they had to have. But even so, to find, it's like the head being chopped off and a dagger being put into the heart when the Secretary and the President have to, leave. And I think the opposition which was advanced by the President and the Secretary, saying that the state associations are unwilling, otherwise we would implement the Lodha panel recommendations. I don't see now the state associations having, too much ground to kind of contest or fight their battle any longer. So, because what the Supreme Court's decision says is, we don't care what you think, you just have to implement. Your time and your opportunity for putting up a negotiation or doing whatever, defending your point of view has gone.
Right, absolutely. In fact, I think, as you said, unexpected, while all through December the case kept being delayed, adjourned, etc. We were wondering what next, but this is something that wasn't anticipated. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the defenses prepared by the BCCI would not have factored this in.
So, it confused a lot of us, because what the Supreme Court was hearing post the July deadline lapsing is the status report. Right. And as I understand it now, we'll have to read the final order, of course, is that the Supreme Court was giving the BCCI enough opportunities to implement it in toto. Right. And once Justice Lodha felt that it was not being implemented in toto, he made this request that the BCCI should be dissolved, that Anurag Thakur, the BCCI President, and Ajay Shirke, the Secretary, should be, shown the door. He had, in fact, suggested that. And it seemed like it would, when they met again and nothing happened, that perhaps there might be a little softening of the stand. But look at it this way, if the Supreme Court had to kind of backtrack, then, you can't negotiate on an order, because then every order passed by the Supreme Court is open to negotiation. So I don't, in hindsight, the position was cast in stone when the deadline passed.
Absolutely. I think Justice Lodha, he has spoke to reporters saying that this is the law of the land and you can't go beyond this. So as you said, very little choice to for the BCCI. But it's a question which a lot of us have, what next? They have a group of administrators who will be, interim, will be sort of looking over the matters, working at.
Yeah, so as it stands, the senior most vice president will become the acting president, and the joint secretary will become the secretary. Right. Till the 19th of January. Then senior counsel of the Supreme Court, Fali Nariman, has been appointed along with Gopal Subramaniam to create an interim board. We don't know as yet. The interim board will have an observer like G.K. Pillai or somebody else, as had been recommended by Justice Lodha, or is there a period of time that will be defined, a roadmap in which there will be fresh elections to the BCCI, eliminating all those who are 70 years of age and above, or those who have had a term of 9 years, like, so for instance, Ajay Shirke. 70 years and above, there are many people who are still in office who will have to leave. So, and I think wisely Sharad Pawar of Mumbai Cricket Association, who's 75 or 76, had resigned himself. So, I think that these are the transition period is going to be both interesting and very crucial, because remember, this is also the peak home season. Absolutely. There is a one-day series coming up against England starting on the 15th of Jan. First match to be played in Pune, which loses its representative in the BCCI, which is Ajay Shirke. Are they going to be stodgy, the Maharashtra Cricket Association? Are they going to be as accommodating as the game demands or the Supreme Court would expect? We don't know, because the BCCI office bearers who exist might take a position, okay, now you'll run it. There's not much that we can do, since you've anyway kind of eliminated us. What can be done?
Yeah, lots of questions thrown up, and I think a lot of fans, the first question is what happens to the cricket, what happens to the on-field action.
Yeah.
And as you said rightly, with Pune, with Mr. Shirke, or the one state, one vote policy which Maharashtra has because of the three boards been very contentious.
Yes.
It throws
So
up
no decision on that has been taken. I don't think it will be taken till the end of the home season, which is obviously the series against Australia. But whether cricket, I don't think cricket will suffer in the sense that there will be a period of unease and recalibration, a new power grid, a new power structure coming into place. But the game is very rich and very deeply rooted and very rich in both quality and quantity in terms of money, as well as the team doing extremely well. And the spread of cricket is across the length and breadth of the country. So it's not that suddenly the edifice will crumble. But obviously the transition period needs to be tackled and handled well.
But speaking of transition, Shirke sort of gave a quote which said, "My role is over."
Yes.
Which obviously, apart from the direct consequences, it sort of has this underlying surrender, so to say. Now they can't do much anymore.
So the reason given by the BCCI, by Anurag Thakur and by Ajay Shirke in not implementing in toto was that our state associations are unwilling. Now, post the president and the secretary being sacked, will the state associations have any resolve left, or will they buckle under, is the big question. We don't know. I suspect that, once the senior most vice president takes over, so he's still part of the BCCI, I think that way they've been a little astute, the Supreme Court. So from within the system, they will appoint an interim president for maybe for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And from the system itself, a joint secretary becomes the secretary. And then there will be confabulations between the office bearers who remain or the state associations who are there and Fali Nariman and Gopal Subramaniam. And then, work out a roadmap.
Right. But, there's another question that sort of pops up. What happens to BCCI's global standing, so to say, with the ICC and with the whole Big Three structure that has often been debated? What happens? Will that change?
The Big Three structure, it doesn't exist. It exists notionally it is there.
Right.
Not, maybe in reality it is there, though not, on paper. But, I think India's strength in the sport comes from the sheer number of fans, and therefore how lucrative it is even for the sport. That does not change, unless there's a right royal mess up, which I don't see why should it happen. So, the transition period may be a little difficult. It may take a little bit longer for things to settle down, but that's not going to uproot support for the game or the fans or the sponsors. Some things need to be speeded up. For instance, the whole IPL season, telecast rights for the next 10 years, that has to be decided fairly quickly. IPL 10 is almost on us, 3-4 months away. So those are certain issues that need to be tackled on an urgent basis. But apart from that, I can't see spectators and fans fleeing this game and saying, "Oh, we've lost interest in cricket because the president and the secretary are not there." I don't think they were crucial to the participation of fans. Perhaps to some extent the sponsors, because the BCCI went and marketed itself very well and raised the money in the finances. But even the sponsors, and they support the game for the fans it brings. So that's not going to change.
Well, that's one positive. But that brings me to another question. Anurag Thakur has also charges of perjury against him for a letter supposedly sent to ICC Chief David Richardson.
Yes,
and that is a whole different can of worms, because if found guilty, and the Supreme Court has stressed on it, he could go to jail.
Well, perjury is a jailable offence. So if he's been issued a show cause notice, we'll have to see how he responds. Prior to this judgment coming, he has said that he had not lied. He went and said that I have not lied at all. So that's been his position. How he responds to the show cause notice now remains to be seen, but it could be a very serious issue if the Supreme Court does not accept his replies to the show cause notice.
Right, that's going to be another thing we'll be tracking clearly. And the next verdict is set for Jan 19th, as you said, but that gives the BCCI and the intern working a good 2 weeks to sort of settle things, even though there's a game in between.
It gives the Supreme Court time also to set parameters for the new interim board which may take over. Because you can't suddenly have elections to all the state associations. First, the state associations have to toe the line. And then also I think the big niggling issue which will remain, and this is something that I have actually argued against, which is that one state, one association, one vote, is a monumental task to implement ASAP. You know, I find in theory and in an ideal situation, yes, all states must have a cricket body, but maybe it needed an 8-10 year period for it to really fructify. But that's my point of view. Having said that, the Supreme Court's position is very clear. We are the highest lawmaking authority, legal authority in the country, and you know, you can't be on a path of confrontation with us all the time for so long. That's the position they've taken.
It's sort of made it made the start to the year, especially from the news side of things, very interesting.
Very news intensive.
So we have a few days to see how it goes before India take the field. Let's see how it goes off field for India. And of course, to discuss all of that, we will definitely have Cricketwallah.
Yes.
But for now, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.